Yeah, I can only hope that he can bounce back some way or another before he gets into the big mountain stages.
Levi Leiper is saying he saw a mountain out on the course that was not on the profile, and it was emanating from Oscar Sevilla's hip, actually. So it must have been quite a large bump on it.
Yeah, well, this is the 10-kilometer situation at the moment. Frigo went through equal on time here with Gonzalez. Beltran has come in 2 seconds down and equaling the time of Miller. It's a good ride by Beltran. That might be the next leader of the Tour there.
It's an impressive ride by Beltran, and he's the guy that was brought into the team at the very last moment, just before the Tour de France for US Postal Service. He was originally a member of Team Coast, and when it all started falling apart and they were trying to form Team Bianchi, he decided, I think I'll go to the US Postal Service, and I think they really appreciated him, Bob, on some of the big mountain stages.
Oh, he rode a fabulous tour in support of Lance Armstrong. Manuel Beltran did a great ride at the last moment. He was brought across, like you said, because of the disintegrating situation at Team Coast. Team Bianchi did a pretty good Tour de France also, but I mean, things might have been a little bit different if Beltran had been helping Jan Ullrich out in that event.
But he wasn't, and this man right now is not even worried about the Tour de France. He's worried about keeping the golden jersey on his shoulders. He got it away from the rest of his teammates for the first few days of the Tour of Spain here. We were talking about positions in the final sprint. Then this man got into a breakaway, and he now leads his other teammates by 50 seconds. And let's not forget, he also leads David Echavarria by 50 seconds as well, because Echavarria was in the breakaway on that day, and he moved up into second place in the overall classification. But we know that little David Echavarria doesn't have a very good pass when it comes to time trialing in Grand Tours.
That's absolutely right. And Beltran a minute down. Well, we'll see when the checks come. As you can see at the moment, the golden jersey just about 8 minutes into the attempt now. Frigo is arriving here, and this will put him in 6th place finish if he can hang on, and he can. 55-55, and I think we'll find he's just picked up Floyd Landis. Well, we're not going to find out, but Floyd Landis was in that straight as well, coming in behind him. As we're now back out here with the leader of the Once team. Today's the day he must prove that, I think, Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano. Once he's over the top of this rise, and he's almost there now on this newly opened, or not quite opened, auto route, then he's going to be able to swing in. There's the 10-kilometer, and now that is a surprise. 28 seconds quicker. Well, that's amazing.
That's amazing, but don't forget, we did mention last year this man was the time trial champion of Spain, and it's a 28-second beating of David Miller at this part of the course. He doesn't look comfortable at all, but let's not forget this man has rivaled people like Lance Armstrong at the Tour de France, and he wore, of course, the yellow jersey for a long time last year, and I think right now he's trying to build himself a nice buffer before we go into the mountains.
We should sign up those two riders on the right. They're holding him at the moment as they race down the other side of the carriageway. But that is incredible. 14 minutes and 12 seconds for the first 10 kilometres. And to put nearly half a minute into David Miller, who's finished with the best time. I hope he hasn't made the mistake of starting just that little bit too quick, as others have done. We'll know pretty soon. Let's take a break. And welcome back. The arrival at the 21-kilometre point now of Francisco Mancebo, 14th place for him. Now, these are the men at the head of the leaderboard before the start today, now getting through to the checkpoints here. Gonzalez de Galdeano still to arrive here, but done an absolutely scorching opening 10 kilometres. If he can maintain that sort of pace, I think all of the favourites will have to reassess exactly what they're going to do to him tomorrow in the mountains, because he's pulling big time out of them right now. Mancebo going round, 18th position, clock stops, 1:41 down on David Miller at this point.
Well, let's not forget, a lot of riders have been cracking in the latter part of the course. Mancebo going through there with a 18th time, which is really not too bad at all. Roberto Heras has lost himself at the 10-kilometre point, 48 seconds already on this man here, Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano, and he is absolutely flying. Look at that body. It's rock solid right in the middle of the machine, as aerodynamic as possible. And let's not forget, Phil, last year this man got a bronze medal in the World Time Trial Championships.
Well, he is a good time trialist, but to pull it out towards the end of the field in the rising wind today is incredible. 30 kilometres to go. Anyway, all of the American riders in the Vuelta Espana are in. And I think we can now show you how they've done. The times on the start is Eastern Seaboard times. 58.24 for Leipheimer. Only one who didn't break the hour was Fred Rodriguez, the sprinter and former double champion of the US. George Hincapie came in with 59.01, and it was Floyd Landis just behind, when we were looking a bit early behind Frigo, 58.07. was the final time for Floyd on the US Postal Team. Now then, just what is Angel Casero going to do about this? Because here we have Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano. Casero is a time trialist of note, so too is Aitor Gonzalez, and this man stealing a march. And now, we haven't got a time yet. I'd almost forgotten about him, to be honest, Isidro Nozal. I shouldn't say that. He hasn't yet arrived, I don't think, at the first check. No, he won't have done so, because at 14 minutes. Now, the big chief went through in 14:12. He is on the climb to the time check. But I think he's going to be outside the 15-minute mark.
Well, if he's outside 15 minutes and 2 seconds, then already the golden jersey will have slipped off his shoulders. You can just about hear in the background the venga, venga, venga coming from Manolo Sainz, encouraging him, his bike rider along here. And that's a war cry, Bob, that we've heard many, many times. Look at this.
I don't know where this time check is. We've never actually seen a timekeeper. The first we get to know is when they do this to us and show us the situation. And this is amazing. 14:04, 8 seconds better than Gonzalez de Galdeano.
And 34 seconds better than David Miller. That's an unbelievable ride. Maybe the wind just happened to stop right there, and it's totally vanished from the landscape. It's incredible. Here comes Unai Osa to the 21-kilometer checkpoint. Not a great ride by Usa so far. He's going to need to turn on the afterburners and get home as fast as he can. He's going to slip down to worse than 40th place here.
Yeah.
If this is a GC ride, this is not cutting it for the Banesto team. He's had a solid year so far. I'm sure he'd like to do a great Vuelta a Espana, but we're going to have to get back into the mountains before these athletes start to shine again. Today is not their day. Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano and Nozal doing a fabulous ride, both of them.
All right, well, he slipped out of the top 50 riders there as he continues trying to make amends. Remember, the second half seems to be a little bit difficult. The riders misjudging their effort in the early part could pay dearly at the end. Anyway, if you're looking for something to watch at 10 p.m, OLN at 10 will bring you the latest shows on the network. And you can tune in Monday through Wednesday, and you can see shows like Beach Ambush, Bragging Rights, Mysterious Encounters, and the Outdoor Outtakes. And the new lineup will all begin on September the 29th at 10 p.m, of course, Eastern and Pacific. Situation at 10 kilometres, we're absolutely stunned by this. Nozal has gone through, responding to the race leadership of the Vuelta a Espana with the best time. He's never looked as though he's been doing that sort of a ride, but the clock says he is.
Well, the clock never lies, and that's why this race is called the Race of Truth. And look at that. That's the man who started 2 minutes in front of him. That's Echevarria. It's quite remarkable. He's never been a great time trialist, and let's hope he doesn't try and jump into the slipstream of the rider catching him, as he did at the Tour de France. But being caught after just 10 kilometres, it just gives you an idea how good a ride Isidro Nozal is doing.
Well, you know, he's promised to be a great bike rider, Nozal, and the fact he stayed on the Once team with a manager like Manolo Sainz, who spotted the talent of this man, it's just going to take time to come through, and maybe this is the time it's going to all happen for him. Tremendous results, and well done if he can keep it up.
Well, such a shame really for Manolo Sainz, because this is the last year of the Once team. The team we're looking at just there, ibanesto.com, they will disappear at the end of this season, as will Team Once, and still no news, although there are 1 or 2 rumours about a sponsor coming in to pick up Manolo Sainz's team. But until he actually announces it, Bob, I don't think we will see these guys riding together as one squad.
No, I don't believe we will, and some of the riders starting to sign contracts for other team. Nozal doing a fabulous ride here. We'll have to mark the progress of Roberto Eras a little bit further up the road. Here he is right now, not as an aerodynamic position. He's a pure climber, doesn't excel at these. In the last year's Vuelta, he lost 1.5 minutes in the first 40-kilometer time trial, and in the second one, of course, he lost over 3 minutes to Aitor Gonzalez, who wound out the winner overall last year. And we have another 53-kilometer flat time trial, so one wonders what Roberto Harris is going to have to do in the mountains to overcome that deficit. But this is a solid ride. He's in 10th place so far. He's going to drop down a couple more places probably at the 21-kilometer mark. He's in 13th now, but that is a very solid ride. We'll have to see the times, however, of De Galdeano as well as Nozal when they come through this point in the bike race, and they're going to be there the rate they're going in a very few minutes.
Well, so Roberto Heras, he slipped behind the time of arch rival Angel Casero, and also Alex Zula is recording a better time. There's Michael Barry at 30:19, and I think that's going to be quicker too than Roberto, his teammate, just as they hit about the same time, 30:19.3. So they've gone through pretty much the same, Barry and Heras. So Heras not riding any better or any worse than I think we expected of this young man. He climbs really well though, so he's trying to survive today as he continues on his way. But the hot news is Isidro Nozal might yet stay in yellow. We'll take a break. And welcome back, and this is Manuel Beltran reaching 21 kilometres and in second place at the moment. And so Miller's still the best time here because Gonzalez de Galdiano and Nozal have yet to come, of course. Slipping down to third. It's a good ride by Beltran. He could be becoming the new leader here of the US Postal Squad as he goes round the corner. Clock stops at 29.10.
That's a very impressive ride there, Phil. 23 seconds down on the time posted by David Miller. But further out on the course, you can see that a lot of the Once riders are really putting in fine performances as well. This is Marcos Serrano at 21 kilometres covered. He's going to cross the midpoint line here, halfway down the top 15, I would say.
Yeah, he slipped away. He's behind Beltran in time at half an hour for the 21 kilometres. It's about 12 and a quarter miles. In just on the half an hour. So because of the uphill start, the headwind, the top boys seem to be holding around about 40 kilometres an hour over this first half an hour. They get a bit quicker, of course, as it all flattens out and they collect that tailwind. This is now Igor Gonzalez de Galdiano. We thought his time was exceptional, and now he's coming up towards that Czech. Miller there at 28.47. Now this is looking not so good now for Igor, Paul. He started extremely quick. He is falling behind the time of Miller.
Well, it's this middle part of the course that is very difficult. It's where I think the riders are actually getting the majority of the headwind, which has really whipped up in the latter part of this afternoon, and that's the advantage we keep mentioning that David Miller had starting early on in the list of riders. Coming through the 21 kilometre point. In fact, Gonzalez de Galdiano has slipped down pretty dramatically into third place.
And only 7 seconds better than Beltran. We've had indications of this throughout the day, Bob, that second sector, if you make that heavy start, you obviously hurt yourself.
Well, he had 28 seconds, excuse me, on Miller before that, but at the 10Ks, and he lost that plus another 16 seconds. So he's lost almost 1 minute in 10 kilometers of bike racing. I think it must be the wind out there on that section. Now they'll get to the tailwind section of the course. Jan Ruska was able to close 3 seconds to Miller, who still has the leading time, and that was quite a good ride by Ruska. Let's see if he's given a report to his teammates and his captain here, Igor Gonzalez de Galdiano, out on the course now. He's lost some time. I can't believe that now he's 16 seconds behind Miller. Maybe Miller was saving everything for that 10-kilometer section of racing, and that would give him the advantage in the fastest time.
Well, although Miller did start fairly quickly, he's actually reputed as a time trialist who accelerates towards the end of an event. He always seems to hold something back for the last 10 or 15 kilometres, and that could well be where he wins this afternoon. And
what we must not lose sight of course, David Miller is racing to win the stage. He's half an hour behind in the overall classification. These boys at the end of the start order are racing to win the Vuelta Espana. They'll just be looking at the whereabouts of each of their nearest rivals. They won't worry if they don't win the time trial. And Lance Armstrong was in the same situation on that last time trial between Pornic and Nantes in the Tour de France. Miller won the stage, but Armstrong was only concerned about the whereabouts of Jan Ullrich. So a little bit of juggling of times on the highway. It's exceptional, of course, if you do win such a stage in any major race. And hats off if David Miller achieves it. And if he doesn't, we're looking at the rider who might actually destroy the fairy tale, because Isidro Nozal is rising to the occasion. This next check will be absolutely crucial as he approaches now the 21-kilometre point, the long straight road here for the golden jersey of the Tour of Spain. But I'll tell you what, when he gets there, if he's still the best time, then I think David Miller will have a problem, and this man could be the winner of the time trial. He's never done that before in his life. We'll take a quick break and we'll come back for that check. The face of Roberto Heras, very briefly. This is the man we're interested in now, the golden jersey of the Vuelta Espana, heading for the time check at 21 kilometres. Rodriguez has gone through, by the way, and he is wallowing in the top 90 riders, starting the day in third place overall. So he's going to be washed away from the leaderboard tonight. He held the lead for 2 days.
Well, he's still showing a very fine position on his machine, right on the centre of the handlebars. And you know what? He's gone through that 21-kilometre check with a time 45 seconds better than David Miller and a time a minute faster than his own teammate, Igor Gonzalez de Galdiano. You know, they always say that the leader's jersey changes a man. Well, it's certainly done that this afternoon.
Well, it reminds me of what Sean Kelly once said to me. I might have told you before, but Sean rode the best time trials of his life when he was a leader of the Tour. He was not interested in doing a good time trial if he wasn't racing for a high place in the classification. And this man has certainly responded. He's only, in fact, won one race in his life. And right in front of him there now is his teammate, Joaquin Rodriguez, caught for 4 minutes. 4 minutes he's bringing him back for. He's already passed, remember, David Echeverrier, and David, learning from the Tour de France, has not stayed in his slipstream. He's fallen away from the action and is now the last rider on the road. But this is exceptional, Bob, and I just shake my head in awe. This is a fantastic piece of riding by Nozal.
Well, nobody fancied his chances at the start of today's race, but he's reversed all of those prognostications, and he is flying down the road. The golden jersey giving him tremendous amounts of power. I think we're seeing that. He's passing his teammate, like you said, who started 4 minutes ahead of him just 20 kilometers ago. This is an awesome ride by Isidro Nozal. Not only is he challenging for the jersey to keep that, but also for the stage win. This is absolutely incredible that we're seeing now maybe another huge star on the horizon for Spanish cycling.
You look at his record. He turned professional in 1999. He's nearly 26 years of age. He's won one race in his life, which was called the International of Alcobendas in May 2002. He's never won a time trial. He's never led a major tour. And here he is riding to what will be the biggest ride of his life.
Well, let's not forget that he has already 50-second cushion to Igor Gonzalez de Galdiano, and he's already put 1 minute 8 seconds into him right now. He's leading this bike race by something like 2 minutes and 10 seconds.
21 kilometres, Nozal. 28.02, his time at 21 kilometres. As we see now other big names there as we pass down the leaderboard at that point. We're heading now. The next check we'll get is at 31 kilometres. David Miller reached that point in 41 minutes and 38 seconds. Just wondering how Gonzalez Galdiano is going right now, because he seemed to be slowing quite dramatically. But the Once team, if he comes through anywhere like the mountains in good state tomorrow, are going to have to start thinking about him and looking after him all the way to Madrid.
Well, this man has posted the best time trial, and let's not forget, in about 10 days' time, we've got another very long, flat, individual time trial of over 50 kilometres. And if he can produce a ride like this, at the moment he's giving Roberto Heras a 2-minute beating. And I think that will be around about 3 minutes by the time we get down towards the finish. You know, this is a great ride by this young man. He's starting to bob and weave a little bit. You see the upper part of his body starting to roll, and that's because he's under serious pressure right now. And the reason he's under serious pressure is because he is performing to the absolute and utter maximum. He's gone out and produced an incredible ride. I don't think anybody would have expected this. He has ridden a time trial in the past, and it was in that Clásica Internacional de Alcobendas, and I have a feeling that was an individual time trial. And you know, when you look at a bike rider like this, he's just, Bob, coming to the right age. He's about 26 years of age, and he's just starting to mature. And let's not forget, like a lot of these riders on Once and ibernesto.com, he doesn't have a contract for next year.
Also, it's a great chance for him to show off his strength as a bike racer. Not a lot of opportunities when you're on a team like Once that has so many big stars of the sport of cycling, especially Yoshiba Boloki, Igor Gonzalez de Galdiano. A rider like Isidro Nozal has to wait for his moment to shine in the sun. He's grabbing it right now. We used to say that about the third year into your professional career, you start to figure things out. Here comes the two Kelme riders to the finish line. I wouldn't be surprised for me to see that Oscar Sevilla has been caught by his teammate. Well, it looks like he's catching him now. We'll have to see when we get to the line. Oscar Sevilla, 40th place at the moment. That's not a great ride by Oscar Sevilla, but he will not be too pleased with that, to lose so much time, not just to the stage winner, but also to some of our more fancy GC contenders.
Yeah, well, Sevilla finishing here 48th, 49th. He's just going to be under the hour, and that doesn't all well. So the form is not there yet. Miller already in, still the best time, and that time only being challenged by one rider now, the leader of the Tour. We are absolutely stunned by what is a great performance from the leader of the Tour, Isidro Nozal, as Sevilla crosses the line just in 59.25, just beats the hour, 52nd place. So he's still a long way to go to recover the magical form of last year. Roberto Jerez still riding a lonely trail out there as the drama continues to unfold behind him. We'll take another break. Rejoin us very soon. And welcome back. The time trial set to be a big surprise today here on the route around Saragossa. Remember, this is the 6th stage of the Vuelta, and we're looking now at Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano. Was a leader at the 10-kilometre point till his teammate Nozal came through with a time some 8 seconds quicker than him. And since then, Gonzalez de Galdeano has started to slow down while Nozal is going quicker. There's the 31-kilometre check at the moment, and Gonzalez closing in again on Miller. Seems to recover a little bit. He's now only 15 seconds off Miller's pace. Already in the start house, by the way, one of our tipped men, Oscar Sevilla, second in the Tour a couple of years ago, but won't be too happy with his time. He's finished with a time of 59 minutes and is a little bit off the pace today. He's going to lose probably 5 minutes to Nozal at that rate.
Well, I think this indicates just exactly how difficult the headwind has been on the way out away from the start line, and the riders picking up a tailwind on the return back to the finish. This man we're looking at now, Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano, is pretty close to catching a man who started in front of him, and I would expect that could possibly be one of the riders like
Serrano.
Roberto Jerez.
Well, I hope it isn't Jerez, because then he'll have taken 6 minutes out of him. He started behind Marcus Serrano, which was his teammate. Be more likely, I would think, but we'll know very shortly, of course, as he cuts through the trail. It won't be Beltran. Beltran is having a very, very good ride just now. He might well be closing in on Jerez.
Well, you can see him just changing gear there, just getting the flints off the front end of his tyre. He's still looking pretty good, and in fact he has recovered. He was pulling back time over this next section of the course on the time set by David Miller. Miller has finished an awful long time ago and is probably witnessing this bike race from a local bar to watch it on TV to see whether or not he's going to hold on as the winner.
Well, 11 riders still left out there. This is the 11th man to come in now, Mercado. And his time, a nice time, put him in top 30-40 riders as he comes home here. And so he's still going to remain a factor in this race. Juan Miquel Mercado, he's a very good climber, and he's finished in 58.37. 3:43 behind David Miller, of course, but nobody's particularly worried about the deficit on Miller. It's the deficit on this rider here, Isidro Nozal, who's totally stunned us with a time for 21 kilometres of 28.02. and he's way ahead of the field at that checkpoint. The next check we'll get is at 31 kilometres.
Well, 31 kilometres.
Not far away, actually, from there, Paul.
Igor
About a minute away.
Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano has actually gone through there with the third best time, and I'm fairly sure that the times of Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano are being sent back to this man Isidro Nozal, so he knows just exactly where he is out on the course. This man has already caught two men, the two men that started in front of him, David Echavarria and his own teammate, and that was Joaquim Rodriguez.
Well, Gonzalez de Galdeano started 6 minutes in front of him. He's pulled back only seconds on him at the moment. I don't think he'll be seeing Igor before the finish, but I think he'll be well satisfied with the fact he's wiped out the two riders in between, and he's still setting the fastest time at the check. I'm totally stunned by the performance so far, and even Bob Roll is shaking his head here. It's been an outstanding ride, but let me do correct one thing we said earlier. I said he'd never won a time trial, and he'd only won one race. Well, I've just checked up on the race he won, the Clásico Internacional de Alcobendas, and he won stage 3 of that event, and it was indeed a very short individual time trial of inside 10 kilometres. But there's no doubt that this would be his finest performance of his life. As we're now looking here at Roberto Jerez, trying now, Manuel Beltran, I beg your pardon, who is riding just originally 2 minutes behind Jerez, but I have a feeling is beginning to cut in and looking extremely good here. Remember, this is the first full year for Beltran on the US Postal Service team. Came across from the side of Jan Ullrich when things were going a bit sour on Team Coast. It was a good catch by Brunel and the team of US Postal, because he's turning out to be a superb rider, and this might even turn out to be his tour. All will be revealed in a few minutes. We'll take a break. And welcome back, and here we are now looking at Nozal, and just take a look at this at 31 kilometres, a minute 10 quicker than David Miller and a minute 19 better than Ruska. And now our researcher Paul Sherwen has been looking at the result of that time trial he won back in May in the year 2002. The two men he beat, Jan Ruska and David Miller. How about that for a coincidence?
Absolutely remarkable. It just goes to show this man has been progressing since he turned professional. He's not quite 26 years of age right now, and on that occasion there were some other big names in the team, in the individual time trial, who were a long way behind him. One of the other men on that time trial that he beat was his own teammate at the time, Abraham Alano. This is Aitor Osa. All of these riders trying to put in good performances because they know how important it's going to be when we go through to the next big mountain stages.
Well, Bob, it's going to go down as a huge surprise, but I think there's little doubt now this man is going to keep his lead.
Absolutely. At this point, it's an incredible ride that he's putting in. Wasn't fancied at the start, but now he's making sure that everybody knows who he is. And at the end, this is going to be a shock if it stays similar to the finish line. Roberto Heras coming into the finishing straightaway here. Just one more corner. This is a very solid ride by Roberto Heras when we get a time on him. He's in 11th at the moment. He'll slip away maybe a couple of places. We're going to see Nozal set a scintillating time. Nozal, Spanish for flying, but Roberto Heras doing a good little ride for himself.
Well, as Heras comes up here, it's not going to be a long wait before Beltran is also in that straight. And in fact, they're turning the motorbike off behind. He might be right behind him and he is. So Beltran has almost bridged a 2-minute gap here to Roberto Heras, which is going to give him a solid position in the overall. The two US postal riders, both Spaniards. And this has been an exceptional ride by Manuel Beltran. It'll be overshadowed by the race leader when he comes in. But, you know, this man might become the protected rider now on US Postal. It all depends what happens tomorrow when we go to the Pyrenees. 55.16 then, and the fourth best time for Beltran.
Brilliant ride by Beltran there, and we may well be seeing a change in the leadership role there at US Postal Service. And that was a great ride by... Is his nickname Tricky, Bob?
His nickname is Tricky. I'm not sure where that emanates from, but Lance calls him Tricky. All his teammates, Michael Berry in his diary that you can see day to day from the Vuelta a Espana, refers to him as Tricky. And initially I wasn't sure who he was talking about. I thought it might be Floyd Landis for playing that ZZ Top music all the time.
Well, that was a tricky ride he put in there, that's for absolute certain. I think he'll be very pleased with that. We're now looking down the shoulders here of Igor Gonzalez de Galdiano. He's inside of 3 kilometers to go. He still looks pretty good, but he's actually losing time consistently to his teammate Isidro Nozal. But this man, let's not forget, third in the World Championships in the time trial last year. A very good time trialist, and probably still a very good candidate for the long-term victory. He actually crashed out of the Vuelta last year, and I think he broke his arm.
He did, and that was very, very sad. But here he is back again, fit and healthy and fighting, but going to be extremely surprised. Everybody must be surprised, because Nozal has never given us any indication he was capable of turning out a ride like today. And we're looking here at Igor Gonzalez de Galdiano at 2 kilometers to go now to the finish. And it's not going to be long, because the next man in after him will be the golden jersey. And I reckon we'll have to wait about 4 or 5 minutes, because he's caught the riders who started in front of him, Echeverria and Rodriguez. So this is Galdiano. You can't, it's a difficult
Gonzalez
name,
de Galdiano. It doesn't exactly roll off the tongue.
You should never try to say that after 2 bottles of wine, I can tell you. Well, this rider now coming to the line, he is going to be desperately shocked, I think. Now, what are they going to do, Bob? Because they're the only 2 riders for Once who can win the Tour.
Well, having 2 riders that are up there solid on GC is not bad at this point. Pretty early still in the Vuelta a Espana. 2 weeks to go. 3 very hard days to come in the Pyrenees, I think, for the Once team. Keep both of them under observation, see who's climbing the best after this. De Galdiano, 50 seconds behind this man at the start of the day, and he's going to slip down about another minute and a half beyond that. So I would put a lot of resources at protecting Isidro Nozal for a while to see if he doesn't falter in the Pyrenees in the 3 next very hard mountainous days to come.
Let's not forget, and one thing we must always remember about a 3-week bike race is, in fact, that Team Once have done an awful lot of work since the start, because, you know, they won the first team time trial, but since then, Bob, I think they've done a lot of work to keep themselves at the top end of the overall classification. We've seen Team Once do this so many times in the Vuelta in the past. You use a lot of energy in the first week or 10 days, and then boom, boom, and out go the lights.
Indeed, indeed. Now we're into the centre of Saragossa. The boys are coming home where they started from. and for Nozal about 52 minutes before, I think, because that's the sort of ride he's on. It would be a long 52 or a short 53-minute ride as Gonzalez de Galdeano comes in. Miller is best time 54.54. Gonzalez de Galdeano, has he sprinted the gap closed over those last 10 kilometres? We were talking about 15 seconds difference. I don't think he'll get to the finish in time to pit Miller, but it will be very, very close. But whatever happened after that fast start in the second sector, he lost time and recovered from it. Desperate sprint. It'll go into second place, I think, here for Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano. He's going to have to push Ruska. As we come up to Ruska's time now, he'll drop into third place, and that will be good enough, I think. He'll just stay ahead of Aitor Gonzalez, who actually has done a very, very good time here as it's turning out now, and has put him back in the frame as we go into the mountains. 55.11, third place. I can tell you that time, 55.11, would have won the 40-kilometre British Time Trial Championship in 1965. So, as we wait now for the next man to finish, there he is out on the highway, the golden jersey. It's about a 4-minute gap, I think, a little bit of rocking and rolling there. Serrano is in between somewhere, of course, he's been passed. Anyway, if you've missed any of the stage of the Vuelta so far, then do tune in to OLN tonight and every Thursday night and catch up with the latest insight. OLN's Summer Sports Zone will feature highlights, news and results, and also we'll be on the programme tonight discussing this amazing time trial. Check it all out tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern and Pacific. There we are. That's the situation at the finishing line. Briefly as it was, David Miller is still the leader, but he knows now he can ride off to the hotel, because when Nozal arrives, it's going to be a very, very decisive victory indeed. Look at him going, Bob.
Absolutely flawless position here. Deep in the drops there, steady pedaling. This is after 40 kilometers of flat-out effort, and he still has a very smooth rhythm. Just a little bit of rocking in the shoulders there. Looking up, keeping his head down. He looks up to mark his progress, make sure he's not getting too close to the fences. He's got a couple of corners to go before the finish line. This is a beautiful display of power and technique and real desire on the part of Isidro Nozal. Not the most fancied of any of the GC contenders here at the start of the Vuelta a Espana, but now he is really establishing himself today as a guy you've got to watch out and start to attack on every opportunity for the next 3 days, and to see if you can shake some of this confidence that he obviously has gained during his tenure in the golden jersey. Just 2 kilometers to go now. He's really flying. This is a great result for Isidro Nozal. This is a rider whose team is going away. He's a newer professional, just almost 26 years old, and he hasn't been a pro for very long. Starting to learn the game, learn the sport, and I'm sure he would love to continue his career as a bike racer. And a rider that doesn't have a contract and wants to keep on racing can produce some amazing rides, and that's what he's doing right now.
Well, he's become a star of the future, and it's all happened today for him over just 44 kilometres. He did turn pro in 99, won one race in the year 2002 when he beat Miller and Ruska in a small time trial in a small race. Now, there's no small race here. This is the time trial, the first long time trial of this year's Vuelta a Espana. Everybody expected to be looking at somebody else in the golden jersey tonight. This man has risen to the occasion absolutely marvellously, and he's going to increase his lead, Paul, and we could be looking at nearly 2 minutes.
He's going to have a very solid lead by the time he goes into the mountains, and the team will certainly have to protect him tomorrow on the first Pyrenean stage, and they will get a boost to their morale with a ride like this, because the great thing I think about Team Once, they've been in the sport now for almost 20 years, and the great thing I think, Bob, is the camaraderie, and it doesn't really matter who wins. It's an all-for-one, one-for-all mentality.
Absolutely. They're like the musketeers of bike racing, the Once team. One thing, they've been very emotional, and they've thrown a lot of resources on the early parts of a stage race, the Grand Tours. I think that's why maybe the Tour de France has eluded them all these years, but they have a great record at the Vuelta a Espana that seems to be predicated a little bit more on emotion than the other Grand Tours. And Isidro Nozal, full of emotion here today, closing on the finish line, and he is absolutely flying. He's only at 52 minutes 40 seconds right now, with just a few 100 meters to go before the finish. I think he'll go into perhaps a 53-minute range at the finish of this bike race.
Just a quick look in the car there. The passenger riding alongside Manolo Sainz was Yoshiba Belocchi, and that's quite remarkable. He crashed out of the Tour de France with that dramatic crash when he was going into a corner being chased by Lance Armstrong. But this is the story of the Tour of Spain this afternoon.
It's been the ride of his young life, this, and he's going to come in with about a 53.30 performance, which will give him victory on the day, on the second win of his career, and he will increase his lead in the Vuelta Espana. You cannot have asked more from this rider. On the day when we thought he would see his jersey pass away to a teammate, he has kept it with a vengeance. 53.34. He wins by a minute and 20 seconds. That grimace is very shortly going to be one huge smile.
Almost 30 miles an hour, 49 kilometers. What an incredible performance. I don't think any of us could have expected the man at the start of the day who led the race to be leading after this 44-kilometer test. That really is an incredible performance. Only the second win of his career, but what a way to start a career.
I think that it'll be very easy to give out the prizes today. The stage, the GC, not the king of the mountain, but I think he'll be the owner of every other jersey in the bike race.
Well, absolutely superb performance. There it is, 53.34 for Isidro Nozal, the leader of the Vuelta. David Miller, and second at a minute and 20 second. Jan Ruska, a minute 26. Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano at 1:37, and Aitor Gonzalez, two important names there in fourth and fifth because they are long-term candidates in this race. But who to say now that Nozal isn't? He's passed test number 1 today. Tomorrow we'll see how he gets on in the mountains, and if he gets through that and stays in the golden jersey, then we'll have somebody to look at. We'll take a break, come back very soon. And welcome back. Well, here comes David Echevarria. Remember, he was caught out on the course there by the race leader. And Nozal in with a 53.34 ride. It looks to me as though it's just going to be the hour for David Echevarria. No surprises here because Echevarria, though, looks as though he's tried very, very hard today. He is more of a sprinter and a reasonable climber than a time trialist. So he's just under the hour as he comes up to the line. 59.54, but he conceded 6 minutes and 20 seconds. He was caught for 2 minutes and then lost a further 4. I have to say, that ride is one of the finest time trials I've seen. He made us look as though we knew nothing about the sport.
Well, it's quite amazing because what a ride that guy did. I think there's only one person, Phil, could actually have believed that he was going to do a ride like that, because Isidro Nozal, he knew that he was starting last man. He knew that he only had one victory in his career. I wonder if he really believed, Bob, that he could actually pull this one off. I'm sure he thought he was going to lose to Gonzalez de Galdeano.
Well, he had something secret he kept up his sleeve for this event today. It seemed like he was put under pressure to keep the yellow jersey, the golden jersey, for the last couple of days. He's going so fast around that last corner, he almost lost it right there. That would have been a disaster, but still wouldn't have prevented him from winning the stage and keeping his golden jersey. What a fantastic effort. This is a big star. This is a huge moment in any rider's career. A great ride by Isidro Nozal.
Well, unofficially, we've worked out he's now the leader of the Tour by 2 minutes and 27 seconds. That's not official, I hasten to add. That's the maths of Paul and Bob, but they're usually right. And that is a nice gap to take into the Pyrenees, isn't it, tomorrow? Because tomorrow we finish on the mountains at Cotteret, don't forget. Look at the average speed, 49 kilometres an hour. Fabulous performance by Nozal. There's the official result of that. A minute 20 back to the ace time trialist David Miller. But the two big names, Gonzalez de Galdeano at 1:37, last year's champion Gonzalez at 1:41. They have performed very well, really, because they should stay the course as we head around the circuit towards Madrid. Still a couple of weeks and a few days away. Well, waiting now for the prize presentation. It's going to be a pretty happy occasion indeed as we look out here across the nice city of Zaragoza. And I'm sure Pedro Delgado, who lives in this region, is not too far away. He's commentating for Spanish television, and he's going to be as surprised as most of the international commentators today, because when a man has only got one small win to his name and he's been a pro since 1999, he comes and turns in a performance like that. I think they must have stunned just about everybody.
It was a superb ride by that man, though. He was not at all worried or phased out by wearing the golden jersey. And this is a small presentation to Aitor Gonzalez. Probably the most likeable rider, I would say, because he managed to get himself into the top 5.
They have lots of these strange presentations in the Vuelta, Bob, and I've no idea what they are half the time.
I think we saw Chema del Olmo getting the Best Socks Award a couple of days ago. He just disappeared around the back of the podium, but he did have a pair of very nice stockings as he was leaving. It was a total